Let's look at our one last example. 2.18, Verdi, La Traviata. So, our questions here. Provide a term that describes what is happening in the third bar. So, what's this? Got a fermata. Got a bunch of stuff going on in the melody. I'll be in right cadenza because that's you could write cadenza.
Yeah.
Is it an eruption or fermata?
Well, there's a word for this.
Irregularity?
What's going on? It is irregularity, and he's making a big to-do out of this fact that the irregularity that you find all the time at the hypermetrical level also happens at the metrical level. So it actually messes with the bar line.
Mhm.
See how long that? I mean, that bar line only comes at the end of the second system. Whoa. He's making the point that don't think that you can just say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't a metrical effect. You're inventing something. No, because you have to know that it also occurs at metrical levels. This is something that's pretty fundamental. In other words, you can't just say, that's not meter, that's not meter up there, because of irregularity. Let's get to the last question and just see how this works. How do you define meter? How does he define meter? Talks about a regular alternation between strong and weak beats. Yeah, and the regularity is usually part of the definition of meter. It's like some people talk about pulses. They mean that you can sync up with the music. You can move to it in a very regular way, and they'd call these pulses. And the very definition of pulse is that they're equidistant. They keep happening at regular intervals of time. Okay, this is going to mess with that then. This is going to mess with that regularity part. So if you define meter as a regular alternation between strong and weak beats, you're going to have a problem with even calling this meter if you let holes develop. It's like rifts in the space-time continuum. We're in Star Trek land. This is not right. No, this is not reality. But he's saying, no, you've actually experienced this before. It's familiar, and here's a kind of situation where it is. A little mini cadenza thing. He's saying that's suspended meter. You've suspended our sense of meter, but you haven't broken it. You still have an expectation that there's going to be another one, a downbeat, that's going to come later. You've suspended the meter. Well, we have suspended hypermeter too. And basically he's making it believable. This is what he's doing. Now some people say, okay, here's meter. Not just a line of pulses trucking along in your head. Some people call meter a mode of attending. Justin London reviews a bunch of research in this area. It's this idea that this is like peaks in your attention. You go, I think there's going to be some change. I think there's going to be some change. Not so much. You see what's going on? Your attention peaks at points, regular points in time, because you start to expect that notes are going to change or chords are going to change. And so meter is really something right up here in your head. It's something that you do as you attend, as you pay attention to music. And when you start doing this, other people would say, well, okay, I'm gonna mark those off as regular pulse, like a stream of pulses that I feel in time. But that's not meter yet. Meter isn't just a string of pulses, it's strong and weak, you see? Mm-hmm. So that means there has to be you attending and going, I really expect change more here, so it's a very nuanced, multi-level thing. So you're getting strong beats in here because there's another layer of pulse going on with it. See what's going on? You may have beats, but to have meter, you also have to have measures. You have to be able to group those in twos, duple meter, or threes, triple meter. But if you're not grouping these by reinforcing it another level, you don't have strong and weak. But as soon as they align like this in a regular sort of way, you have strong and you have weak beats. So they're strong and they're weak, and that happens because you can attend to the music at those different levels and sync up with it like so and like so, you know? And when you feel that, it's a complex thing. Somehow you're able to feel all of those, both of those at least, together at the same time in order to hear strong and weak pulses going on. That's kind of neat. So meter is actually an interaction. We only get meter going on if we have a couple levels going on at the same time. If you don't have meter. So meter is a complex thing. And you see how irregularity just messes with this whole thing? If you're going to define these as like layers of pulse, then you're saying they're going to come at expected times. How are you going to sync up with the music if you can't project that there's another downbeat? Or, here we go. You expect change to happen at certain times. If it's random, you can't have that sort of expectation. The regularity is the only thing that allows it to be something predictable where you can actually move to the music. You can sync up to it. So this whole idea of regularity has been bound up with all of our ideas about meter for so long. And now he's saying something pretty crazy. He's saying, oh, but it doesn't need to be regular all the time. You can blast it, have this rift in the space-time continuum. You can have that. You can have meter on hold. And this is one of his exhibits to say.
So
see?
What is it called?
What?
What is that? What he does there with that cadenza? What are we calling that?
That's suspended meter. And then he says you can also suspend the hyper measures, the hyper meter.
And that was in the reading.
Mm-hmm. Now you can call it other things as long as you. Now we put elongated upbeat and suspended hypermeter on the board last time, so I assumed you'd use that to describe it. But you could talk about an elongated beat, and I think that's what he actually used. Manipulation of hypermeasures. Now we find that the regular patterns of beats from one hypermeasure to the next may be interrupted by an elongated upbeat. Now that's under manipulation of hypermeter. It's the second paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
So he's talking about elongating different kinds of beats, and this is an elongated upbeat.
Okay, so it's not a talent, but that's the term.
Do you see in the score he wrote elongated? He's saying that beat 3, the upbeat, is elongated. So this is an elongated upbeat. So this is good. He said suspended. And we also wrote up elongated on there too. So if you put elongated upbeat, that's great too.
We can
But it's
say
this idea of stretching out a beat. Yeah.
we can say it's a cadenza, right?
I'll have to take that because that's true too. It is a cadenza, right? I was trying to get you to think hypermetrically.
Yes.
It's true. It is.
Think
It
about
is.
it, but I think it's wrong.
But but his point about it is that it's an elongated upbeat, or just an elongated beat would do.
But now why would he call it an upbeat?
Because it's beat 3 and a triple.
So if it wasn't on beat, if it was on beat 4, would you not call it upbeat? You just call it elongated?
It depends. If you hear something as an upbeat, it's
Okay.
because it's the last element. If you've got a 4 beat scenario, then yeah, that's the upbeat. But if it's triple, then that's
Okay.
3's the upbeat.
But
So he's just saying, look, that's beat 3. That's an upbeat. So it's elongated. It's an elongated.
Okay.
Upbeat.
So whatever the beat is, it's elongated, whether it's an upbeat, downbeat, or
Yeah.
no beat. I mean, no, doesn't,
Yeah. So we really need a broader category. We could always say elongated something, elongated beat, but suspended hypermeter is nice too. And
So those are the same
he'll
thing.
use dashes for that, show that it's sort of on hold. Yeah.
But the elongated upbeats, it results in the appearance of one or more extra bars, but I didn't see it here.
Well, yeah, because beats at a hypermetrical level
Mm-hmm.
are the measures, right?
Yeah.
So you need one or more bars if
Mhm.
you have a hyperbeat
Mm-hmm.
that gets stretched. So he's saying, this is an example at the metrical level, but now we're gonna see a bunch of examples at the hypermetrical level. His focus is on hypermeter. He's just going to meter here to sort of sell you on this idea. And say,
Okay.
see, this is familiar, you've experienced this, right here, you know,
Okay.
at the metrical level. And now he's trying to make it believable that you could actually have irregularity, even though everything about meters screams regularity, you know, even though regularity is built into how we conceive of meter in the first place, he's saying still it's real. You can suspend the hypermeter without completely throwing it out. See how that works? So hypermeter comes into play up here where we have, let me get rid of this, you can see it clearly. So if we have another layer where we can move to the music very slowly up here, then these measures are getting grouped into twos and we get duple hypermeter. We have meter, we have hypermeter going on up here because of the interaction between this layer and that layer. And even there, especially there, we get irregularity, we get elongated beats, we get suspended hypermeter. But it's the idea of elongated beats that he's stressing here. It's like you're holding, you're waiting for something to happen, but you still expect something to happen.